and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. I'm Dean Gemmel, and in this edition, we talked about some of the issues swirling around our sport with a top curler who actually seems to study these things a bit. I apologize in advance for some of the static during the first part of this interview. Verizon is making things challenging as of late. And Albertan, speaking to us from Ontario, Scott Pfeifer, welcome back to The Curling Show.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be one of the select few to have a return invite to your show.
A repeat invite. Yeah, it's a rare honor. There's only a few. All right, you were at the Bell Canadian Open this past weekend. What were you trying to do, sneak in as a Monday qualifier, or were you there as a fan?
While I was there as a fan, I would have loved to be in on the golf course because it looked real nice, but after seeing some of the shots the pros were making, I knew I had no chance.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you're at a tournament to see how well those guys play, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really unbelievable.
Hey, let's start with the just-released team rankings on the Asham World Curling Tour's Order of Merit. A fair amount of online chatter about leads and seconds carrying a smaller percentage of points forward if they went to other teams than skips and thirds. You did post about it actually on curlingzone.com. Always like to see players who post on Curling Zone. But give me your take on the system.
Yeah, it was actually probably my first post in like 2 years on Curling Zone. I always enjoy reading other people's points of view. But I think first off, the best thing that they did was they put some kind of team component, 20% being retained by teams that keep 3 of their 4 players. I was a little surprised to see that they were giving more weighting to skips and thirds rather than seconds and leads, and I think they could have approached it in a different way where if a player was maybe moving up in position, you take some points away just because obviously a relative experience factor. But in the same token, if a third goes from one team to another, he's able to retain 25% of his points, whereas a lead, like Jamie Korab, for instance, this year, he only gets to retain 15% for his new team, and that's a little bit of a disadvantage for 2 players that have basically earned the same amount of points.
You proposed a different idea, actually, where it was 20-20, everybody equally weighted, but if you moved up a position, you might lose 10% of your points, right?
Yeah, I thought that would be fair, so that if a player was making a lateral move from one team to another, that he wouldn't lose any points. But if a skip was starting to, or if a lead was starting to skip a team, that there would be some kind of relative drawback, whether it's 10% or 30% of points.
I do think it undermines the team aspect a bit of the game, like you said, and I don't think that's particularly healthy. But another point that was made, I thought that was a good one, was what do you do about a player like Russ Howard, who with Brad Gushue's team, who called the game and threw second stone? How do you allocate his points?
Yeah, you know what, that would be a tough one. And same with our team as well, with Dave throwing skips rocks. But that's usually it's the way, a third and a skip will sometimes kind of switch the calling and the throwing of the last rocks. But you don't really see where a lead or a second, or a person throwing lead or second is skipping the game, other than maybe Russ Howard's case, and I think Pierre Schrepp did it a few years ago as well.
Yeah, I mean, Pierre, I think, skipped and threw lead stone one year, but I think we might see more of that in the future, though, to be honest.
Quite possibly. You see it, or at least teams, if things aren't going well for a year, they kind of decide to try something different, and it's kind of opened it up. I think you'll still see more often than not the traditional skip throwing last rocks, but it's always great to see teams trying to mix it up and find out the best combination.
Your team's been a model for sticking together, but there were lots of off-season, late season, and even a mid-season team change on the women's side in 2006, 2007. Were there any changes that really surprised you?
I kind of heard at the end of last year that mainly in Quebec with Pierre Schrett's team and Jean-Michel Menard, that there would be a fair amount of changes there. So I wasn't too surprised about that, but obviously I think I was surprised as everyone else when I heard that Jamie Korab was leaving, or not leaving, but not by his choice, but was parting ways with Brad Gushue and Mark Nichols out. I think that one surprised me the most. We played them in the Canada Cup, and you could tell things were kind of on the edge, but we kind of attributed it to they basically went straight from the Brier where they lost the final, and the last thing you really want to do is play in another major event. You want to kind of take some time off and regroup, and they didn't have that opportunity. So we were really surprised when, a week or two later that we heard that Jamie Korab was no longer on the team.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like it surprised a lot of players on the tour. We always seem to have a better sense of who's maybe in and who's maybe out.
And part of that was like Jamie Korab. He's pretty loose and pretty vocal on the ice, and I think that was a good compliment to that team when Brad and to a lesser extent Mark are pretty serious. So it'll be interesting next year. I'm not too familiar with Dave, their new rep on the team, but it'll be interesting to see the dynamic on that team because they'll lose a lot of, I guess, a relaxed atmosphere on the ice with Jamie Korab.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Brad is sort of a cool corporate curler, whereas Jamie is definitely a looser player on the ice.
Oh, definitely. Sometimes you wonder if Jamie's even watching the shots. He's just laughing and talking with the front end on the other side. But a great guy and a great curler, and I honestly think that Brad's going to kind of start off with a handicap this year, bringing in a new player and not having the chemistry off the bat.
You guys won the Canada Cup last year, a win that went a long way in regards to Olympic trials qualification, and probably made you feel pretty good about your season, even if I think a lot of fans almost forgot that event happened, that you won, to be honest. But you're supposed to be an expert on the trials system, so give me your thoughts on the one that's in place for 2009.
I for one, really like the system that they have. It kind of takes all 3 years to qualify for it. And I see what they're doing with trying to find the 4 best teams and promoting them directly in the trials and giving the remaining 12 a chance to get one of the other 4 spots into the trials. So that'll be interesting, but I really like how they've created a greater emphasis on the Canadian, like the CTRS, and getting overall points, because it really rewards the teams who put a huge amount of effort into the 3 or 4 years leading up to the trials, instead of just having one single event where a team can get into the Olympic trials directly.
Randy says you're the guy he asked to help understand it. So who do you think next year is going to be the first to qualify for the Elite 8 group?
Well, you'd probably have to say, at least on the men's side, Glenn Howard, because
he could have last year,
right? No, he's not qualified for the Elite 8 yet. He's got 2 of the 3 major wins.
Right.
So he still has to win either the Canada Cup, the Brier, or the Players' Championship.
Right. He could have won. He could have got in with the Players' Championship win last year, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he could have. And then Kevin Martin is obviously next in line. But for him, his advantage is he won the CTRS last year, so all he has to do is win it in one of the next 2 years.
Okay.
And then he's got the spot. So obviously that wouldn't happen until the end of the season. So to answer your question, I'd say Glenn's in line to be the first team, and Martin behind him, and obviously we're the only other team with a major event victory, and we're third on the CTRS, so we got a good chance as well. We're pretty happy with our season. Obviously our main goal over the next 2 years is to get into that Elite 8 and qualify for the Olympic trials, which is hopefully going to be in our hometown.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had a surprisingly good season when you look back on it. I mean, I think a lot of people thought it would be disappointing, but you did win the Canada Cup, and you were usually finishing well in other events if you didn't win them. Yeah,
in the Grand Slams we made, I believe, 3 finals, and or at least made it to the semifinals in all of them. And you know, Glenn Howard made an amazing shot in Kitchener-Waterloo in the first end to take 2, or else we were in control of that one there. Luckily enough, we won the Canada Cup and got our major event victory, but by no means were we disappointed with our season. We were third ranked on the tour behind 2 great teams in Kevin Martin and Glenn Howard, and very happy. You know, a lot of people see it as a failure if you don't make it to the Brier, and obviously coming out of Alberta, that's very difficult, especially with Kevin Martin and Kevin Cooey and all those guys there.
You know, you guys did seem to have a fair amount going on off the ice last year, I guess, with Dave and Curl TV and your hair program. Did you ever feel like maybe there were too many distractions last year?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I think last year out of any, we've probably been less distracted. Dave has had Curl TV going on for 3 years, and he does a great job of, even though he's there managing it sometimes, he leaves it to the guys who are in control there. So that's not really a concern. And, you know, we had some sponsor commitments and stuff like that, but nowhere near the amount of commitments that we had the year before, and the focus towards winning that Olympic trial spot. So last year, if anything, it was kind of take it easier and regroup and try and qualify for 2010.
Hey, that Canada Cup win also gets you in the Continental Cup. Your team's been in it before, and you're back in. What are your thoughts on that event?
Well, you know what? When it was held in Medicine Hat, I believe it was 2005, we would rank that event in probably the top 5 that we've played in, playing in front of a home province crowd and a full house, and playing with some great guys and having a final rock, probably the biggest shot money-wise. It was worth $75,000 that anyone's thrown a last rock for. It was an amazing event. We love playing in the Continental Cup, and we're looking forward to it. We were a little disappointed that the Continental Cup was scheduled the same time as the Canada Cup East, which is going to be a little detrimental towards the CTRS points race for us this year. But we're looking forward to the Continental Cup, and feeling pretty confident with the teammates that we have.
Do you think they should look at changing the format at all? You know, the thing, and I brought this up on other podcasts, the thing I don't like is the one is just 2 games at the end. I'd love to see it like the Ryder Cup where all 5 sheets are going. Well, not the Ryder Cup. As compared to the Ryder Cup singles matches, where there's always a chance that a team can win a bunch of singles and either come back or at least make it interesting.
Yeah, that'd be pretty crazy having all 3. I mean, you could only have the men's games on at once and the women's games on at once, and obviously they got to stretch it out for television. And
you could have 2. You could have 3 men's games and 2 women's games, couldn't you?
Well, no, there's only 3 sheets of ice.
That's right. It is
at one time, so you'd have the 3 women's and the 2 men's. And right now they have or you could have the 2 60-point games at the same time as the men and the women. So you could squeeze that in there, and that might make it a little more interesting. But, you know, watching the Skins game, I know the fans weren't cheated out of it the last, or at least the 3 years that we were in it. We had a great time sitting on the sidelines cheering for the team, because it's almost more nerve-wracking than being on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, my problem is that I'd rather watch TV and see you guys playing instead of cheering.
Yeah, well, you just got to wait until the next day. Obviously, yeah, it'd be nice to be out there as well, but it's got to be a 3 or 4 day event to make it fun for the crowd and
that's true.
Fun for the teams as well. It's kind of like a build-up until the big finale.
Hey, some other new formats in the works next year. There's going to be a World Championship mixed doubles, and the Europeans are starting a made-for-TV series with 6-end games, alternating hammers, and even less hitting than allowed in the free guard zone rule. What are your thoughts on these kind of developments?
Well, first off, with the mixed doubles, I mean, I see the reason they're doing it is to try and get more interest in the Olympics, and hopefully that be an Olympic sport. I can't say I'm a huge fan of the mixed doubles. Like this year, even at the Continental Cup, it'll be the 2 players, and they got to sweep their own rock, so they won't even have sweepers at the Continental Cup. So, you know, it'll take a bit of time for the format to catch on, but I think anything that can promote the sport through the Olympics is a great thing. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how it works with just the 2 people on the ice rather than the 2 throwers and the 2 sweepers.
What do you think about that European series?
I haven't heard a whole lot about it, but anything that involves less hitting and more drawing and more rocks in play, I'm usually a proponent of. We enjoy the 8-end games as well, just because it forces teams to go for it earlier in the game a bit more than watching them hit for 2 or 3 ends. You know, our team is always the ones throwing up the corner guard as soon as someone else goes in the house.
I think alternating hammers might backfire, actually, because you could really put a game out of reach. I mean, if a team steals and then they have the hammer the next end, it's pretty much over.
Yeah, I guess. I hadn't thought of it that way. I haven't had much time to think about that one, but yeah, it kind of also changes your strategy in that you're a little more aggressive because you try and get the one afterwards. You're never trying to blank an end, so it should be interesting. Lots of rocks in play, and you know what? Again, another thing where if it doesn't work out, it won't be for a lack of trying.
Well, I think as a front-end player, in regards to the mixed doubles, you should feel good because I think we're going to see just how much impact sweeping has on shot making. I think even at the Continental Cup, when people chasing the rocks, you're going to see a lot fewer shots made, and people will realize how important sweeping is.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be pretty funny seeing Randy slide and throw his rock and throw his hammer broom to the side and pick up some other broom and start sweeping it halfway down the ice. So I wish they would have said that the other player didn't have to be at the other end, because to be honest with you, or at least have an official at the end holding the broom for the thrower. So
that's a great point. I don't know why it's that way.
I don't know
you
either.
could throw without a broom. I mean, I think that would be a lot more exciting. Just throw without a broom. I mean, you do it in practice.
Or just have an independent fifth person just standing at the other end holding the broom. it's not like the person throwing the rock can't call the line while the other person is sweeping. So
right, even without someone standing at the other end, it's a lot more interaction between the two players that way. They're at the same end, I don't understand why they... I originally thought it was going to be your option. You could stand in the house and hold the broom, or you could come out and sweep, but...
Yeah, I thought that would have made more sense too, but I'm not sure why they... I mean, in the hot shots at the Briar, that's what they do for the first round.
Right.
Obviously, there's no sweeping, but it doesn't make an issue one way or another if the person's at the other end of the ice.
I'll predict right here that if Randy is playing in mixed doubles, he won't be getting up to chase his own rock.
Well, exactly. So you never know. He might not be playing mixed doubles. Maybe it'll be Marcel or myself.
Well, yeah, it might be the kind of thing where mixed doubles has to be a little more athletic curler, perhaps.
Yeah.
Not that Randy's not athletic, but, it might be... The only thing is, it sort of seems to me it's going to look like when you go to a curling club and there's a bunch of 10-year-olds playing, chasing the rocks up and down.
Yeah, well, you hardly ever see... I don't think I've ever seen a Canadian player get up and sweep his own rock after, but the Europeans
it'd be horrible.
all the time, so you never know. They might have a huge advantage going in.
Yeah, I mean, you see like the Chinese team where they have 4 people sweeping half the time.
Oh, I know. So. And they all got their heads down and they don't look up until the rock's halfway through the house.
Right. All right, Scotty, I appreciate your time. I'm going to end with the Runback. You listen to the show a bit, so you know what it's about.
Sure do.
Sales of your team's book?
Going pretty good, actually. We sold a lot, and there's a lot of good feedback.
Good. There's a lot of curling books last season, so
yep.
It's good to see. The Olympic curling trials in Edmonton.
It's, I guess, one word: a necessity.
Necessity. All right.
If it's not there, I'll be extremely disappointed.
I think it's still a probability, but not quite a definite yet, right?
Well, not a definite, but if it doesn't go there, there's something wrong.
Sweeping with Russ Howard in an event last season.
Get out of my way, Russ.
I haven't seen any. There's no video captured, I don't think, of Russ sweeping. Your games weren't on Curl TV in that event, I don't think.
Oh, really?
I'd have to look in the vault, but I don't think they were.
That's too bad. No, actually, we had a lot of fun playing with Russ last year, and we've played with Russ Howard and Kerry Burtnick the last 2 years in Spiels, and it's fun watching them sweep. I don't know how Randy convinces them to sweep while he still holds the broom.
Not playing in the last 2 Briars.
Disappointing, but it just kind of increases the hunger to get back there next year in Winnipeg. I'm sure it'll be a great event there.
Liberating from a time perspective, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So you're disappointed, but it refreshes you for the last few events in March and April.
The CCA's budget woes.
Hopefully it turns around. Obviously they took a big hit the last couple of years, and obviously they're looking at bringing in new management and a new style.
And finally, that new management. Qualities needed in the next CEO of the CCA.
Personally, I think I'd like to see someone outside of the company that brings a lot more marketing and exposure experience from different sports.
So you'd like to see a non-curler involved? Or at least someone who's not fully ingratiated in the game.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, Scott, I give everybody a chance to name their sponsors. I know you guys have more than a few, so let me know who they are.
Well, we're down here at the Bell Canadian Open with our sponsors, World Financial Group, and on the go this year, we've got Prism Flow Products from Alberta and JVC, Asham Curling Supplies, and Bell Mobility.
All right, Scott, I appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of the summer, and we look forward to seeing you on the ice in the fall.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Dean, for having me on, and hopefully I'll catch up to John Meade one of these days.
All right, take care. That's Scott Pfeifer on The Curling Show. Thanks for listening. Here's Black Pudding.